Hi there, my name's Jim, this is my shed and you're welcome to it. And here we are, episode 6. Before you know it, it'll be episode 600 and the car might actually be finished. Or maybe 601, 602, something like that. You never know. I've had conversations about the spec of the car, obviously, various people, and more than once or twice the possibility of going electric has come up. And to be honest, I have thought about it, because when you look at a Rimac Navara or a Tesla Plaid or McMurtry Sperling, you certainly can't argue with the performance. They're just extraordinary machines. But as amazing as electric motors are, you know, you get something this size, a new axial flux motor about this big, making 400 horsepower, something like that. Extraordinary. The problem is the batteries, always. To give yourself any kind of decent range, you're going to be carrying at least 200 kilos of batteries, and I just can't justify that. It just doesn't, for me, it doesn't fit, doesn't seem right. So the answer is no, I will not be going electric. But not because I've anything fundamentally against electric. I'm an engine man. I love engines. They're my thing. And environmentally, even though I promised myself when I started this I wouldn't get into that kind of subject or politics or anything like that. It's tough not to get sucked in. Being an engineer, my views maybe different to the mainstream on that kind of thing. I think I'll leave it at that. Read between the lines, I think you can see what I'm saying. You know, if Greta's right and the world's going to end in 12 years, then putting half a ton of electric batteries in a car, every car sold, is not going to save the planet. But anyway, if electric cars work for you and you want one, great, have one. You know, who am I to tell people what to do? It's not up to me. But personally, I'll stick to my petrol engine for now. Anyway, as I said, promised myself I wouldn't go down that road, so I won't start ranting. And I guess I'll just say, let's crack on with getting bits done on the car. Fittingly for this time of year, the cardboard that's donating its packaging to this template is an Easter egg. Just making the mounting points for the roll cage, making templates to make the plates. This one is the one I mentioned that's going to bolt into where the rear bumpers mount, so it's going to reinforce that area, tie in a few of the spot welded panels together as we go. And onto the more important foot. This one obviously going to take most of the load, so I'm going to try and cut it so it welds into the wheel arch as well as the floor, not just sitting flat on the floor. Transferring the template shape onto a piece of 2mm mild steel, then just cutting out the plates with the angle grinder as we go. Obviously health and safety to the fore again, as usual. Once the rear plates I should say are cut out, go on to the front ones, and then move to the drill to drill out the mounting holes, ready to prep the body. So the plates are made, and now we're cleaning off the areas where the feet are going to sit, so we need to get all the paint off those areas. First of all, using the flat disc to get off what we can, and then once we've got as much of the paint off as we can with that, we then move on to a scraper to get the seam sealer out the corners, and the rest of the paint and stuff, because all that has to be gone, otherwise it will not weld. And oh, excuse me, the rivets turned up, so I shall get on with drilling through the last mounting holes of these. A bit of mastic to seal the holes up, top and bottom, so I don't want any water ingress getting in between the drilled holes, and then we'll rivet it together. So let's get drilling. When I put these plates on, it was a particularly messy task. Unfortunately, the rivets I drilled, or the rivet positions I put on the plates, meant that the rearmost holes were on the material where on the car where it started curving away from the mounting face, which meant that the spreader plates I made wouldn't sit underneath properly. So I ended up having to cut the back hole off the plate, so the spreader plate only went through the front 3 holes, and then the rear hole I just used a washer underneath to spread the load for that one. So it was a bit fiddly to do, especially on the one I'm doing right now, which was so far away from where I could actually reach underneath and hold everything that it was quite fiddly. And the mastic came in handy there to actually hold things in place while I riveted. Having got the riveting done, I then finished off the preparation of the plates, put some weld through primer on, and then sat the plates in place. As you can see, this is where the rear one's going to go, this is the other side, and you can see where it's going to bolt through and weld into several different panels. Moving forward to this foot, as you can see, I mentioned I was going to weld into the side panel and the wheel arch, and also there's a section here that used to accommodate a fuel pipe underneath, but there's room without it, so I just cut that section out so the plate would sit flat on the floor. So before I carry on, I'm going to have a quick whinge here and just show you this is exactly why I hate doing this part of the job. Spent ages scraping out the seam sealer, and it's done a great job of keeping rust out the shell for the last 30 years, but then when you're trying to weld around it, it just bubbles up, blows holes in it, black stuff everywhere, and you just cannot get a good weld. It's infuriating. Can you believe it? I'm actually wearing gloves. And so here we are. Plates all in, dressed, and bit of weld through primer on them. The roll hoop is now cut and trimmed so it's sitting in the right place, and I've just put a seat in so I can mock up where the seat belt mounts are going to go. The top shoulder belt is going to go on the roll tube, just on the corner, and then I was hoping the bottom mount could go on the bottom of the tube, but it's actually sitting too far forwards, so that's going to have to go on the wheel arch, so I can make the lugs to take the top seat belt mounts, weld those onto the roll hoop, and then that'll be all done, ready to be tacked in. So let's get back on the lathe. The only material I had to make this piece was a piece of 1.5 inch hex, and roughing out hex on this lathe with the interrupted cut is not something anyone wants to witness, so I jumped forward till I had the length piece I wanted ready finished to diameter. So here I'm drilling out an 8.5mm hole through the middle to accept an M10 thread. I made the piece in one lump, and cut the registers I needed to mount the seats on each end so that it would be the right length. When I cut it, it would give me 2 pieces at the right angle to sit at the right angle on the roll hoop and mount the seat belt correctly. Having got the registers right, I then used the compound slide to put a chamfer, nice big chamfer on each end of the piece, and measuring the width of it to make sure that each end was the same. Now, I could just leave these two like that and weld them straight onto the roll hoop, because the bit would be at the right angle and sit on the roll hoop, but that's a big lump to weld on, so I'm going to turn out the inside there to lighten them, and why not, eh? I did not use this boring bar to chip away at the whole thing. I just made a flat register, then used whatever drills I had to make a big enough hole, as big as I could, and then again finished it off with the boring bar. Otherwise it would have taken me forever. Hand filing the relief so it'll sit on the round tube correctly, and then once that was to the right profile, just run an M10 tap through it to give the mounting point I need for the seat belts. Before I weld these on, I just want to say I do get a kick out of making things like this. I mean, it's only, you know, weld to the top of the anti-roll bar, and it holds the top seat belt mount, so that on there, and that bolts on. So no one's ever going to see it, especially the machining to take out about 50 grams of weight out of the pair of them. So it's definitely a case of marginal gains, you know, chipping away at the edges, taking a bit of weight out of every part you're making it, and it all adds up when you've finished. The hole is a bit lighter, so it won't hurt. But yeah, as I say, I get a kick out of making things like that, even though to some people's eyes it's a bit pointless. I love it. So it's getting welded on. There we are. No great leaps forward, just some fiddly bits out the way really. I thought maybe I'd leave getting this video out until I had the roll hoop in and started fabricating up the rest of the structure. But no, I thought it was about time to put the video out. We are where we are, so that's what the content is for now. And hopefully next time we'll have some bigger jumps forward. So have some of the cage installed and that, and you'll really see some progress. We'll see. I'm sure people are going to comment that some of the material I've used is far too light, so the plates I've made for the roll cage feet. And basically I'm not building an NHRA spec cage for a 300-mile-an-hour dragster. I'm not going for ultimate torsional stiffness. This is purely to give some extra crash protection for the car, because as I said earlier, or one of the other videos, 205s are notoriously poor in that respect. And I'm just making it a bit safer in a crash basically, and a bit more strength, basically tying the front of the car to the back of the car. Because I remember years ago built a engine for an RS Turbo, one of the earlier Z-Tech conversions, and the owner said at the time that it was pulling the front end off the car, it was splitting the spot welds on the front of the car. So that kind of thing, try and avoid it. So as I said, tying the front and the back of the car together, not going for ultimate torsional stiffness. So the size plates I've got will be more than adequate to reinforce the mounting areas where I've put the cage. I've also got some fairly strong ideas on cage design and that sort of thing. Used to be very into space frames. Made a car quite some time ago that had a space frame chassis. In hindsight, it was kind of like an aerial atom, but upside down, whereas the aerial atom frame comes up and over. Mine went underneath, but still, he built his. I never got mine done, and yeah, the rest is history, as always. But maybe I'll have a chat about that with the whiteboard at a later date, about structures and things like that, and my ideas on how they should be. But yeah, I'm jabbering somewhat, but suffice to say that this car is, in terms of structure, is not going to be the last word. It's just going to be better in a crash than a standard 205, and a bit stronger, so it's not going to pull itself to pieces as I put the extra power through it. So that's where we are. Birthday weekend last week, not as abstemious as I might have hoped. I'm sure no one's surprised about that. A normal service resumed. Some kind soul bought me a bottle of Bacardi for my birthday, so Bacardi and Coke it is tonight, so I can close my eyes on this beautiful April evening with wind and rain, and I can pretend I'm on holiday in Jamaica. So apart from saying like and subscribe, because it helps the videos quite a bit, and I guess it's cheers, good health, and see you soon.